Hey there everyone, it's Vickie Howell here to show you how to do the repeat for the checkered lace crochet stitch pattern that is used in our Aces Bandana designed by Natalie Thomas for my company YarnYAY. So to get started, you're going to, if you're just swatching, you can get whatever yarn you want. I'm using the same yarn that we used for this bandana, which is Proverbs by Forbidden Fiber Company, and I'm also using a size G hook. All right, so to get started, you are going to create your chain as is called for in the pattern, or at VickieHowell.com, the swatch pattern. And then you are going to do one row of single crochet. I'm going to assume that you know how to do that, so I've already done it. However, I do have a single crochet video in my YouTube playlist that I will link to. All right, so after you've done your single crochet, there's an additional foundation row. So what this is going to do is this is going to establish everything that you need to create the rest of this pattern. So we are going to start with a chain one. We've turned. That chain one does not count as as a stitch here or throughout the stitch pattern. And now we are going to single crochet in the same stitch. Then we're going to skip two. So if I turn this over, you'll see you skip one, you skip two, and we are going to work 5 double crochets, and I'm working in American terms. So in that next stitch, so yarn over, insert hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops twice, hence the name double crochet, and you're going to repeat that for a total of 5 times in that same exact stitch. So this is a shell that we're creating. Oops. Next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to skip 2 more stitches. We're doing that because the shells take up a fan of space, right? If that's a term, a fan of space. And so we need there to be a place for that fan to lie. So we'll skip 2, and then you're going to single crochet in the next stitch. And you want to make sure to go under both loops. I only caught the front one there, so I'm going to go ahead and insert and single crochet. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to chain 5. So this is where the lace part comes in, right? We want to create that negative space. So we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we want to skip 5. And if ever you don't know which stitch you just worked in, if you do a little tug and you see the loops moving, you know you've worked into that stitch. So I see that I've worked into that one. I'm going to skip 2, 3, 4, 5. So then in that next stitch, I'm going to single crochet. And that creates that negative space loop. Okay, from here, we are going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and we are going to work another shell, so 5 double crochets. Two, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and now we know we need to give the shell some space, so we're going to skip 2 more, 1, 2, and then we're going to single crochet into that next one. So everything that I just showed you is the pattern repeat for the foundation row of this checkered lace pattern. All right, so if you were doing a wider piece, you would continue. All right, but for this tutorial, I'm just going to do 1 repeat, and I'm going to flip my piece over. So now this is your right side. So we are going to start, this is technically now row 1. I know it seems like it shouldn't be, but that's how we're rolling today. So we are going to again make a chain. We're going to chain 5 this time. This time that chain 5 counts as a double crochet and a chain 2. So we're going to skip the first 3 stitches. Now, it said the first, not the next. So we know that that means the one that we're actually in, and then the 2 after that. But really all you need to know is that you need to get to the center. Let's see, this dark blue is a little bit harder to see. You need to get to the center DC of your shell, okay? And then you're going to single crochet, oops, into that one. And again, I am working in American terms, but I do have in the abbreviation section of my website a translation. Okay, so now we have anchored our chains, and we are going to skip 2 more, and then we were going to create a shell. So we're skipping these 2 DCs. We're going to create a shell in the next single crochet. So essentially what you're doing is you are sort of alternating or layering, here you can see it here, where your shells are. Let me see if I can find one that's in orange so it's easier to see. Okay, so that means that we need to skip the next 2 DCs, and we need to go to the single crochet, and we're going to do our 5 double crochets. Okay, we've created our shell, and now we are going to single crochet in the chain 5 space. So this big loop, we want to anchor to that now. Okay, then from here, we want to do our shell again in the next single crochet. So that's right here. So that means our 5 double crochets. In that next space. And then we want to anchor our stitch to the, we're going to skip 2 again. We're going to anchor our stitch to that center DC. So single crochet. And then if we are at the end of our row, you'll continue as the pattern calls for. But at the very end, what we're going to do is do a chain 2, skip those 2 last DCs, and then we're going to DC double crochet in the last stitch. So you've got that. So that is row 1. And again, the swatch pattern for this is written out at VickieHowell.com if you are not working from the Aces scarf pattern. Okay, so now we're on our wrong side. So we're going to chain 1, and we want to single crochet in the first double crochet. So this is the first double crochet. So single crochet in that first stitch. Then we're going to chain 5. We're going to skip that chain 2 space from the row below. We're going to skip 3 stitches. So 1, that single crochet, 2, 3. Again, we're just getting to the middle of the shell. So if ever you're in doubt about where you're supposed to be working, just remember we're always working into the middle of our shells. Okay, so we are going to single crochet and anchor. And as you can see, it's the same skills used again and again. It's the chains, it's a single crochet and double crochet. That's all you need to know for this whole thing. It's just changing the intervals. Okay, so we've anchored ourselves right into the middle of our shell. Okay, and then we're going to chain 5. Again, creating that negative space. And then we're going to skip over to our beginning chain over here, and we're going to anchor it in the 3rd chain of that beginning chain 5. Remember, we said that chain was going to count as both chains and a double crochet. So we're going to single crochet in the 3rd chain, and that finishes our row 2. Okay, let's flip over. You can already see the pattern starting to form. Excuse me. Yeah, that finishes our row 2, so now we're on row 3. So what we want to do is we are going to start this row with a chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to skip the single crochet. We're going to skip the chain 5 space. Or excuse me, we're going to skip the single crochet. We're going to single crochet in the chain's 5 space. We're going to do our shell in that next single crochet. Then we know that we have to skip, right? And then we have to anchor. So you're probably starting to get sort of the gist of how this all works. So we're going to skip 2. We're going to anchor our shell in the center of the next shell with a single crochet. We're going to skip 2 more. We're going to create another shell in the next single crochet. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we want to anchor into the chain space. Then we want to chain 2, and we're going to create a DC in the chain. So, or excuse me, a DC in the last stitch, which is the single crochet right here. And that is the end of our row 3. So you can kind of see how already this sort of lace kind of net look is happening, but also the structure of the outside of these checks that are also diamonds. So you can see how the support is happening and how the inner mesh is happening. So now we're going to move to row 4. Now there's only 6 rows, so don't you worry, we're getting through this. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to, again, chain 1, we've turned, chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in that stitch. We're going to skip the chain 2 space, and then we're going to create our shell in this first single crochet. Oops. 3, 4, 5. Then we know we need to skip 2, and we need to single crochet, anchor ourselves into that next shell. Then we want to chain 5. And this time we are going to skip 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. So we're going to skip 5. So that means we're going to skip these 2 DCs. We're going to skip this single crochet, and then we're going to skip the next 2 DCs. So really, another way to say it is we're going to skip over to the center of the next shell. and single crochet to anchor ourselves. Then we're going to skip 2, and we're going to create our shell in that next single crochet. So pretty much every time you see that lone single crochet, you know it's time for another shell. Just in case you ever feel like you find your mind wandering, you can kind of be assured of that pattern. One, two, three, four, five. Okay, we're going to single crochet in the third again of our beginning chain. So 1, 2, 3. And that anchors down. And we know that we need to do that single crochet at the end on the at the third chain of the beginning chain, because we began with a single crochet in a DC below on the other end, and we always want to bookend it. And a chain 3 is at the same height as a double crochet. Okay, let's start working on row 5 now. We're going to turn, we're going to chain 3, and this will count as a double crochet, and then we're going to work 2 more double crochets in that same space, and this is creating essentially a half shell. Okay, so from here we want to skip to when we want to do our usual anchoring in the center of the shell before with a single crochet. Then we're going to chain 5. We're going to skip 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then we want to single crochet into this chain 5 space. We want to chain 5 again. Skip over and anchor ourselves in the center of that next shell. Then we're going to skip over here, and we're going to create our other half shell to mirror it. So this time it'll be 3 double crochets, because we're not including that chain because we don't need to, in the last stitch. Okay, and there is our row 5. All right, let's flip over and start 6. This is the home stretch row. We're going to chain 1, single crochet in that same stitch, skip over to our single crochet and create one of our shells. Then we're going to single crochet in the chain 5 space. Then we chain 5, single crochet in that next chain 5 space. Five DC in that next single crochet. And then we're going to skip over 2 double crochets, and we're going to end the row and our pattern repeat with a single crochet in the last double crochet from the row below. And that is the entire stitch pattern. You repeat those 6 rows, so not the foundation row, and not the single crochet row to start, but the 6 rows until you get your piece to be as long as you want, a square, or as the pattern calls for our Aces Bandana. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments section. Don't forget I have a Get Schooled Crochet playlist on YouTube that's free for you. Or if you want to dive into a class, I've got all kinds of crochet classes on Creative Life. All right, thanks a lot. I can't wait to see your checkered lace projects.